Nectar, welcome. You're from Canada, and I really do appreciate that.
For sure. Happy to be here.
So, Nectar, basically, like you put it out there that you're changing the face of Canadian VC. What does that mean to you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, maybe I'll start with myself and before the big issue of the fund. But like I've been a tech geek for 20 years. Started my career in digital marketing and worked at Google for a little while and did some angel investing before starting my own company. And now, now I have a new adventure, starting this fund called Amiral Ventures, which we just launched 5 months ago. And it was a hell of a difficult time to start a new VC fund in Canada. It took us like 3 years to fundraise, and a lot of existential questions like, why the hell are we doing this? Like, why are we spending all this time, to start a fund? And we realized that there's just not enough VC capital in Canada, right? So it's more of a question of not like changing it. It's really just helping boost the ecosystem here, having another fund that knows what it is to start a company, understands startups, and knows when to help, knows when to get out of the way, and most importantly for founders, like writes a term sheet, is able to lead around. Like that's the biggest thing that's really missing in the country right now.
And I kind of remember when this was happening on the timeline. It was like around when OpenClaw had come out, and some of the models had started getting into where they're actually useful for day to day sort of automation and stuff. And that whole scene changed where businesses just are different. And founder CEOs were becoming more on the scene. Um, but Canada itself, being a Canadian myself and having grown up here, having grown up in the Waterloo area I went to McMaster, so the Hamilton area. A lot of engineers, a lot of tech people, a lot of talent goes down south. So talk about that brain drain. It's been happening since I was in high school, a long time ago. So tell me, what do you know about that, and how are you trying to change it?
Yeah, well, it's an obvious thing, right? You pointed out, Johan, that like a lot of the best and brightest leave, and part of that, like in my role, is like I see founders, I get term sheets from American investors, and you know what, founders should get the best possible terms and best possible partner they can, right? So I'm not, it's not a knock on the founders, it's a knock on there's just not enough capital locally. So there's one thing, and then two is the reality of the matter is like all the tech's being built, like a lot of the big generational companies are in the U.S., right? So that attracts a lot of smart people that are not necessarily ready to be founders, are not considering the entrepreneurship path, and but want good safe jobs that pay well. And that's much more present in the US, right? So what's the joke is San Francisco is just a wrapper on Waterloo, right? So it's normal that these things are happening. It's just like the state of the chessboard today. So I think what we're trying to do, and a small part of the chain, is like if we have more tech companies here, we could probably get people that want to stick around, that maybe ascribe more to the values of this country. That hey, if I don't need to leave, to have a high paying, salary somewhere else, or hey, I could actually start a company. It is possible to do it, right? It's like I said, it's not a perfect environment. There's still a lot of work to be done, but uh, small steps towards building, more companies here, I think is a good thing. The end state of how I like to describe it is that we have one big tech company in Canada, right? Like the big one, bigger, 200 plus market cap company. We probably need at least 10 or a dozen more to just build a more vibrant ecosystem, right? Because then below that, you'll have a lot more, obviously, like 50 billion and 10 billion and, unicorn companies, like they'll just be more of a bigger tech industry as a whole, right?
I think I know which one it is. It's Shopify. I mean, it's the only one. But like the others are banks pretty much, and insurance institutions, and that's the state of business in Canada pretty much. Yes, and you're right. We do need to change that. And tell me about like what do you see as the biggest challenges ahead for making inroads into that?
Um, well, like, in my role, like obviously, everything I see is, like what's the expression? If you're a hammer, everything's a nail, right? So I think part of it is like, hey, more money pouring into like funds like myself, like that's obviously super biased. But part of it is also just building the ecosystem here, right? So showing people that it is possible. Like I've met a bunch of very successful founders that have built companies here that have made it and, built here, but are on the global stage. So part of it is like just showcasing that it's possible, right? So I think a little bit of one of the arrows in our quiver is trying to do some marketing, trying to do some media and events to help promote the ecosystem. We're not the only ones. It takes a village, as they say. So part of it is just like the positive Canadian propaganda. It's like showing people you can do it here. And if you follow, like I spend too much time on Twitter, and like it's like a lot of the vibes end up being negative. It's like, but why? It's like quality of life in Canada is great. When there are no bombs falling, you can do it here. Like there's like writing software is done at your like in the office. Like there's no other reason. And there's a lot of like misconceptions. Oh, you have to be a Delaware corp in order to get funding from the USVC. It's not true. It's like, I don't know where that's written, but that's not 100% not true. So I think part of it is demystifying it for the founders as well that are building. And like I said, if they want to move and like go there, like of course, like it's a very vibrant ecosystem. But my job is like, how can we help make it more attractive for people to stay?
Yeah, and are you seeing any sort of narrative for people high net worth and bigger investing in Canada? Like what are their reservations?
Um, the way I like to broach this question is that we're not the valley. Let's not pretend we are, right? Like there's just way more capital available, and it's like it's the analogy is like French wine. Like who has the best wine in the world is the French, right? And the reason is because they've been doing it for multiple generations, right? So it's the same thing in the valley. Like it's literally since the 50s and 60s that this whole tech industry started there. We are on like there may be generation 12, 13 of building, exiting and reinvesting in tech. We're at like 1.5, 2, right? So we're less mature, right? We're an emerging
Yeah.
ecosystem compared to Canada, right? So it's normal that the pockets of money that we have aren't used to investing in tech, right? So I think it's starting to change. Like we saw with our fund, like more than a third of our capital base came from founders, from tech founders that had exited, that had success, that believe in our mission, what we're trying to do. We have like 51 private LPs, and majority are tech founders, like the operators. But there's still, there's a little bit of a misconception. There's not enough money in capital. It's like it's not true. It's like we're a rich country here. It's just the chunk of the money isn't going into tech for a large
Right.
extent. So I think part of a lot of the money does come from government, which is a
Hmm.
good and a bad thing, and I could probably talk about that. But we need to attract more private capital for sure, right? So I think that's a key thing that needs to happen.
So the narrative is like, yeah, there's French wine down in San Francisco, but there's some great sweet Niagara region dessert wine up here in Canada, right?
Totally, yeah, that's it. And and to be clear, it's like I think we punch above our weight, right? If you look at a lot of the innovations that power today's tech, like they all started here, right? So, smartphones is one. Like we have two of the three,
Yeah.
godfathers of AI. Like literally AI, the modern AI, the transformer came from here, came from Montreal. But we haven't been as good. Obviously, the common trope is Canada's not good at commercializing, and it's kind of true, right? Like we're good at the R&D science stuff, but we're not good at building companies as a result, right? So I think there's groups like Vector Institute
Yep.
and Mila that are really trying to change that with their venture programs and get a lot of the people that would be sucked down south to stay here and start companies. And we're seeing some of those successes emerge. But like I said, it takes time, so it's going to be
Yep.
an overnight thing. I think we could probably accelerate that faster than having to wait, multiple generations, because we already have all the raw ingredients are in place.
Yeah, so let's continue. There's a meetup place in Waterloo, and I'm part of it. It's like a co-work space. And I go there, and there's just a cool culture up there, a builder culture. Very cool things happening when people get together and they meet with other like founders. Just an interesting place to be, especially around that region. Um, so we do have a good culture here. It just takes that growing up, or it just takes that initiative for people to see the vision in it. So I'm glad people like you, Nectar, are leading this charge. Talk about like some of the ideas that you've seen that you're like, no, this is not going to work. Like to help some of the founders that are developing right now.
I'm not going to have a very good answer to this question, right? Because I think the one thing I've realized is no one knows. Like everyone's pretending, everyone's trying to fight for status. So there's not like, oh, if you're doing idea X, it's stupid because it's like the history of venture is littered with successes of like people that said like this is a dumb idea, don't do it, right? So who am I to say, like, especially like sitting on the sidelines of you shouldn't try to do X, right? So like a lot of people told the founders of Airbnb is like this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. No one's going to sleep on a stranger's mattress. The smartest investors in the world, right? So I'm not one to criticize and say, hey, you shouldn't try X, right? So I think the path is you have to follow the reality in front of you, right? So you have to know it's like, are people, demanding your product or not, right? So like that's really the one thing that matters. Like, well, customers you use the solution that that you're coming up with, right? So do you have some kind of unique insight into a new behavior, new emergent behavior that you think you can capitalize on and build a company around? So I think that's really the core of it. So I would say it's like startups, as you know, it's like a lot of it's experimentation, starting with A and then you end up with B.
Right.
Look at the guys from that started Slack, like Stuart Butterfield. It's like we're doing a video game, and it's like, oh, we need an in-chat interface for the video game, and that became Slack. It's like if you told me at the beginning, it's like, oh, this video game pitch is so stupid. It's like, right?
Yeah.
So you ultimately what it boils down to is like it's the quality of the founder and like do they have some
Yep.
kind of idea, some kind of area they're working on that's unique, that's insightful, that they can build something. And yeah, I'm not going to be the one that says like don't do this.
And I just being part of startups as well too. It's about the character of the founder and how they can pivot, how they listen, how they're coached, their sense of urgency, things like that. And it's probably something that you see as well, maybe.
Yeah, totally. And there's no one archetype, like
Yeah.
some founders are headstrong. I'm not coachable. I'll do my thing. Other people are very open to feedback and will adjust. And it's the color of the skin, the age, the gender, all these things are irrelevant, right? It's really the quality of that person's ideas and their grit, their resilience, and working through challenges. That's really the ultimate stress test.
What have you learned to walk away from? What type of founder archetype?
Like it's a very personal thing, and I'm new to VC, so I'm like, oh, the grizzled veteran that's done this, right? So we have a style of investing that we like and that we're trying to put forth, and different funds have different styles. And like for the founders that are looking at fundraise, it's like you gotta have to know like the stage, the sector, all these things. Like who do you want to work with long term? And so the founders I like to work with are ones that want to partner with people for the long term that are not necessarily focused on just transactional side. It's like
Hmm.
we like to be in the trenches, be there for important strategic decisions and help out. And for people that are like, that's great, just cut me a check and go away. It's like, that's not exciting. Like for me, it's like, I'm also a founder of this fund. So I like to be involved and help startups as much as I can. And also have the presence of mind to get out of the way if I
Hmm.
need to, but I also don't want to get out of the way entirely. That's not, that's not why I started this thing. I started to be involved and help and use my network, use the fund's connections to be as, it's a small inflection, but like the founders are doing 99.9% of the work. If we could help maybe just a bit at the right time, that can have an
Right.
outsized impact. That's what we're trying to do. So we're not trying to get in their shoes.
Yeah. Um, what did you learn from building up that business in Montreal with Google that's helped you today?
Yeah, it was a sales job. So that was before I started my first company. So I learned how to do sales. So it was like, and within a big structured organization and, what it takes. And you meet a lot of people and make friends. And I also saw what world-class engineering culture looks like,
Hmm.
and, the geeks the geeky culture that, has made Google such a success, right? So there's a ton of lessons. And also maybe I've learned more on the personal side of like what I don't want for me. It's like, maybe I don't think I'd be a good future employee anymore. Having
Hmm.
started a company and starting Amiral of like never say never, but for like being a small cog in a big machine wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I learned that like even if Google had like the most insane compensation, all the the external vanity of oh wow you work for Google and like like in your social circle it brings you this outside validation, but realize like it's not a long term motivator for me.
I resonate with that. I used to be an employee of JP Morgan Chase, and it's like I felt so small within that company, and I totally get that. Um, yeah. I wanted to hit on a point you said about sales. How important is it for a founder to know how to sell?
Uh, well, okay. So again, it goes back to maybe I'm too like the one thing I learned. Like I used to run a strategy company before, and like doing like helping companies figure out what to do. And I've learned one thing is that there's no right answer for anything, right? So the example I said before, like some founders are just like insanely technical and like build something. It's like, how good were the founders of Google in sales? Like 0 on 10, right? Like literally they were not like, but they had this like insane skill of building the future, like that came, like, I know that's a very obvious example. So I think it depends on what you're building. If you're building something that's like product led, the product's the core innovation, like it's maybe not as important. Then maybe hire someone, like have a co-founder that's good in sales or a head of sales, etc. But if you're like building something that's enterprise, like the founder needs to sell and like it's an enterprise led motion or sales led motion, then yeah, you should be there, from 0 to X million, right, in ARR to do able to know it well before you transition to other skills. So when I say that's probably the simplest distinction I could make.
And I guess knowing what the customer would pay for definitely changes the product, but sometimes there's strong visions on what the product should be, um, in despite of the customer. So have you seen different kind of like battles between companies or smaller companies about this? And do you have any opinion on that?
Well, I think there's another key distinction of, is it a customer or is it a user, right? So, the one of the tenets at Google back in the day was like, know the user and all else will follow. And users of the search engine or Gemini or whatever, it's like they're not, most of the time they're not paying for the product, right?
Mm.
So, but they're the linchpin that makes the whole business model work, right? So being able to satisfy users is a key component to it. And then obviously customer is different, right? So having the person that pays the bills, like so oftentimes it could be the user as well, right? Like depending on what the startup is building. I think in both the cases, those are like sometimes in the single persona, sometimes two different. They're very, very critical, right? So understanding, the difference between the two. Sometimes you can have like a sales led motion, but the user's not the person that's paying. It's like it could be, let's say, like a developer and engineer, but the person that's paying is like the CFO or whatever. That's the customer because they're the ones that are signing off on the purchase order. So just to make a very simple kind of like, like statement of how you build a company, right?
Yeah, I mean, so when it does get up to the CFO level, he's mostly probably just a rubber stamp. And in my opinion, anyways, like the product people drive that recommendation, like let's pay for this. Um, but yeah, I totally get that part of things. Um, what are you excited about in the next 6 months here in Canada?
There's a lot, man. Like, I just like my job. Like, I'm looking at it my perspective. Like, I really like what I do. Like, it's like meet with founders and, like have brilliant people line up at the door and try and see, hey, do I want to work with this person and their team? And there's a lot of cool sectors that are, like, yes, the two-letter buzzword everyone's talking about today, but it's just like really Cambrian explosion of all different types of companies, like in biotech, in defense tech, obviously AI, space industries. There's so much happening. So I find them like just drinking from the fire hose all day. It's like meet smart people and like explaining to me what they're doing and try and help if I can. So I want to say that's probably the thing I'm most excited about. And the second thing is also just building a fund. It's like we just had our first employee start. We think about our own process. How do you build a VC fund in 2026 today with all these new agentic tools? It's really exciting because there's what's the expression, or work on the business or in the business. So there's a working on the business part too that I find fun. It's like, okay, like we have to build a team and build a culture and build all these tools and things to help us. I think that's pretty fun too.
It feels like AI is more of an enablement technology, just like the internet was when it first came out. And AI is going to enable other industries to do well. What other industries outside tech are you interested in? Well, I mean, tech is like another enablement type of word, but what industry overall are you interested in? Like space?
Yeah. Well, I spoke about some before. Space is one that I'm interested in just because it's like we see it with the forthcoming IPO of SpaceX. It's unlocking this whole new economy because the cost per kilogram has dropped. So cost of launch has gone down significantly. So it's enabling a bunch of like cool new technologies. And in this case, launch is kind of the enabling technology, and we're seeing a lot of stuff being able to happen, and a lot of cool stuff that in low Earth orbit and in orbit that are really unlocking cool, new types of companies to emerge. I think that's really one area that I'm interested in. And then, yeah, of course, just AI as a whole, I think is one that the pace of change is so rapid. And we could talk about the SaaSpocalypse and everything, but there's a whole segment and slew of opportunities that it opens in terms of like surface area for founders to build on. And I think that's really cool. So it's enabling a bunch of cool companies to emerge, and what it takes to build a company today, and the way you build a team, the way you hire, the way you staff, what you give agents to do. This playbook does not exist. Like, and it's kind
Right.
of being written, a lot of cool blog posts, but like that get outdated quickly. Really exciting time, because it's like the way you
Yeah.
kind of like build a company is changing, and we have four portfolio companies today, and all of them are thinking about this question, right? So how do we build today? How do we hire? How do we be more efficient using these new tools?
I'm recalling a tweet that you put out recently about the Kardashev Type 2 sort of and I googled this or I asked an AI about this maybe about a few months ago, and what is it? There's like something around the sun that that's the end goal, right? Like to have this energy generator around the sun.
Yeah, I think Musk probably talks about this quite often, but what it comes from is from a Russian astronaut called
Hmm.
Kardashev, I think
Yeah.
in like 40s or 50s, I forget. And, like it basically civilizational scales. So type 1, type 2, type 3. And I'm probably going to get this wrong, but like type 1 is being able to harness energy of the sun for your own planet. Type 2 is being able to capture it using like a Dyson sphere and like
Right.
travel, the solar system. And then type 3 is being able to use it across multiple stars. And again, I'm probably butchering it, but I still like this. For me, it's the general notion of harnessing energy from the sun to just build like epic cool stuff. So we're seeing it in terms of like you know um, solar power, right?
Hmm.
They could, since 1970, the cost of a solar panel has dropped by 99.7%, right? Like
Right.
it's trending asymptotically down to zero, because like like power of the sun is like literally free all day, right? So just our ability to harness it. um for startup land, I know this is like kind of hyperbolic. I gave it as a hyperbolic example on Twitter, but I like this idea of like, how do we just build more stuff that's kind of the future, right? So
Yeah.
I mentioned space, like we're talking to companies building like just like science fiction stuff, and we're seeing it in like biotech and health today as well. There's so many different areas. Like, hey, let's cure cancer, right? Like the founder of DeepMind just raised like 2 billion for his company Isomorphic Labs, that is really trying to use AI to help solve some healthcare in essence. So yeah, I think it's like we're getting to the point of like the future is going to look way weirder than
Yeah.
we can imagine today, and we're just at the start of it.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why I created this podcast and named it after Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Nexus, so how we saw the Earth from space. I'm very interested in space tech, and I saw like Nvidia is putting out chips out on what did it look like? It looked like some kind of spacecraft out there, and they're putting chips out there, and they're harnessing energy from the sun to run the GPUs. It's really interesting how people are just kind of thinking about things these days.
Yeah, well, like it's been announced by SpaceX and Google. Like it was an article in Wall Street Journal yesterday of like their plans to put compute in space, right? And so I won't give away which companies we're talking to, but there's some that are trying to do something similar, maybe a different angle to that specifically. So NVIDIA GPUs are already in space, like it's already a thing. They're already on certain satellites. So we're seeing more launch companies come out. Like there's one in I had the founder of Reaction Dynamics on my podcast recently, and he's building a launch company here out of Montreal. Like really, really cool company. So yeah, that whole sector right now is like set really to kind of grow off. And there's a lot of use. People are like, oh, why'd you invest in space? No, but it's going to help things here on Earth. Like people don't realize it yet.
Yeah, even from a commodities perspective, it's far out there, but there's asteroid mining. Like, there's definitely gold isn't the most rarest resource in the world if you consider like you can mine an asteroid for it, and maybe trees are the more rare than and gold. So wood, like there's just certain things that once you go out of this pale blue planet that we're on and you step out there, it just becomes an entire new world, pardon the pun, but like space is the next frontier in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into like the abundance porn, right? Like you could follow the
Yeah.
abundance podcast if like if you want to get into like all the all these amazing things. It's like the future's not written, right? So shit can still go sideways, we
Mm,
still have to, it's up to humans to, people and societal choices that we do things in the right way. So I'm not trying to say it's all going to be this utopia. I'd
right,
much believe the utopian outcome than the dystopian one, but it's not a sure thing. So there's a lot of work still left to be done, right? So I think it's up to us how we decide to do it, right? So I'm not trying to gloss over the real, humanitarian problems that we still have.
right.
But obviously the reason I'm in this sector is because I believe this stuff's going to help, right? So that's kind of my viewpoint.
Yeah, I might have a naive outlook because I've watched too much Star Trek over the years, and I feel like SpaceX is probably going to be like the Federation or something like that. But yeah, I agree with you, and a very pragmatic outlook there, Nectar. Yeah, thank you for coming on today. Appreciate the time. Tell us about your podcast before you go, and the type of guest that you're having on.
Sure, sure. It's like this neat little podcast. I've been doing it for like 10 years. And for me, it's like a selfish reason to just meet founders and meet smart people and learn from them. It's called Flagship. They have an original name. It's just the name of my fund in English. The name of my fund is Amiral. And in English, that means flagship. And kind of get the idea of what we're trying to do with the fund is build the next big Canadian flagships. So if you're, trying to, highlight Canadian founders, Canadian investors on the pod, and trying to build an equivalent media ecosystem to the US. I obviously follow a lot of the US ones, but they have their whole star ecosystem. Just trying to build something here like that, right? So if you're a Canadian founder, you could listen to hey, where are the people building here and the ecosystem, and have them on and learn about what they're doing here.
That's awesome. And where can we catch up with you on? I think you're active on X, right?
I am, yeah, just my first name on X or on the LinkedIn. So tend to be more unfiltered on X.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Nectar. Appreciate you coming on, like I said, and we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.